When it started, it was about edges. It was this sort of rigorous analysis into the ways in which humanity over time had pushed back against the boundaries of the Mystic and Malden River in order to create land where there used to be, nature and river and wetlands. And and it's not really about those edges anymore. It's become more about the ideas that live inside of those edges. And I guess I feel the same way about the site. The site is this little, call it a park, but I've never seen anybody use it as a park, right along the Malden River in Everett, next to like a Home Depot and a Target and a giant liquor store. And it's only there because we feel bad about all of the natural ecosystem that we destroyed to create that Target and that Home Depot and that liquor store. But it's not actually giving anything back to the river. It's just a place for some grass to grow and some trees to live so that we can look at it as we drive to those stores and feel like we're doing something good for nature. And I think that's the way in which this project is still very much about the edges. Because the edges are where the pieces meet. And the way we treat that meeting says so much about how much we respect what's on the other side. The main piece of the site is essentially unprogrammed. It's two different things. At the grade level, there's a diagonal grid laid over the topography and a trench cut every 30 feet to re-invite the river back onto the site and allow it to erode the spaces in between as it sees fit and create a more natural habitat and ecosystem. And then at each of those grid intersections, a 150-foot column is driven into the ground and a trolley is suspended from the tops of those columns, creating a framework and system to build pathways and buildings and platforms above as the system below operates. The only other two buildings on the site are a small artist residence and workshop where artists or geologists or ecologists would live and work for periods of time, before then displaying that work on a series of buildings and pathways and platforms designed for their project and built using the framework supplied to them. I guess lately I've been questioning whether this project is really architecture and whether that matters. It feels more like I'm setting up a framework for other forces to take over. At the ground level, it's natural forces, and I cut a grid into the site to allow the Malden River to re-engage with land that it once owned. And above, on that same framework, there's a building, but it's not a building. And the building moves and changes based on the needs of the artists who would be displaying their work in this sort of gallery that I'm creating. And I think in between is probably where the magic happens, because when you put these very strong forces and systems together and allow them to work independently, they're never going to be truly independent, and there will always be influence of each on the other. And you get to understand new ways to think about the connection between architecture and landscape and the built environment and the natural environment and humanity and the world around us.